Welcome back, everybody.
No Christmas NFL music?
I'm pulling it up right now. But we are going to get into our AFC. Actually, real quick. It's football season, baby. Let's go.
Sadly, still a couple weeks away, but
I know. But if you are one of the few people, that watch more than 20 seconds of our podcast clips, thank you. Appreciate you.
Yeah, very much so.
Had to do that. Had to pull out the song, even though I was late on it. Now we're going to get into our AFC West and South predictions. AFC West obviously being Broncos, Chiefs, Raiders, Chargers, Jags, Titans, Colts, and Texans. Sorry, my brain kind of blanks there. But we will start with the AFC West. Like I said, late in our last podcast, we were doing these back-to-back. So the news that needed to be covered was in the last podcast. We're just going to fucking jump right in, and we're going to get some serious hate from some people, and I'm really goddamn excited.
Yes, we are. Until the end of the season when we are right, and we get to go back and comment on those haters and ask them what's going on.
Oh, yeah, but then they're going to do the same thing to us because we're not going to be right.
Oh, so true. Yeah, no, definitely not. Definitely not, but that's okay. We can sit here and hope right now.
Yeah, exactly. Let's start off with a team that a lot of people think could be revamped this season, but I am certainly not high on it all. I don't know how you view them, but the Broncos. The Broncos is 8.5. So over or under 8.5. I have the under on this one, as apparently 70% of people also do on ESPN.
I am one of those 70%.
You're one of the 30% that says over. Damn. Okay, so we are
No. I said I was one of the 70%.
Oh, my bad.
Yeah.
I thought you were about to do
it. I'm not lacking out here. I don't know what 30% is lacking, but it's not me.
That's fair. All right. I am down fucking bad on the Broncos. This for the Jerry Jeudy injury, but I think the Jerry Jeudy injury now further solidifies this for me. The Broncos are not going to do anything this year. Let me just run you through the games real quick. I have them so bad the beginning of the season, losing to the Raiders, then the Commanders, then the Dolphins, then the Bears, then the Jets, then the Chiefs. And then I think they do beat Green Bay week 7, because I think Green Bay is kind of one of those teams, like you said last podcast, a young team that can sputter. I think they pick up a win there, but then they lose to Kansas City again. So going into the bye week, they are 1-7. Out of the bye week, they lose to the Bills. I think they do beat the Browns, but then they lose against the Texans, against the Chargers, against the Lions, and they lose against the Chargers. But then they end the year at least on a win against the Raiders. So I see 3-14. But a little juicy hint for you: they're not last place in the division. You feel on the Broncos season?
Well, I'm going to start where you ended. I have them tied for last place in the division. I have them going 5-12, so I think they're going to do a little better than you think, which I think is only because of their defense. And it's actually funny because 2 of the wins I have in here, I think they should not be winning. I think it's just those games where one's divisional and one's just kind of, pull it out somehow. So I have them on the same start you did with losing to the Raiders, Commanders, and Dolphins. I have them beating the Bears, which I think is a surprise. The Bears, which we'll get to at some point, I have them losing some games that they should win and vice versa. I think they're going to be both a surprise team and a letdown team all year long. So excited to see that.
Yeah, that's fair.
But I have them then losing to the Jets, beating Kansas City, beating Green Bay, and then losing to Kansas City the next time because they'll be very unhappy they lost the first time to such a team. And then I think they're going to lose to Buffalo, lose to Minnesota, lose to Cleveland. I think they're going to beat the Texans, who are going to struggle again this year, lose to the Chargers, lose to the Lions. I think they're going to beat the Patriots. And I think they're going to lose to the Chargers and Raiders at the end of the season. And I want to say real quick that this is a really interesting team because Sean Payton came in. Russell Wilson is still there. They gave him a big contract, so he's pretty much got to be. But I don't think much is going to change in the offense, especially the Jeudy and other injury he's going to have to deal with. I think that once again it sucks because their defense is definitely still a top defense in the league. But once a defense gets so demoralized, I think the more and more games you lose, and the less you can pull out, which is why I have them losing more towards the end of the season. Yeah, but I think it's going to be tough all around, just like you.
Yeah, I'm not very high on them. I know that's a hot take. Next team up, let's do the Chargers next. I'm going to go kind of rogue here because I know I was
Kind of rogue.
start, but I've kind of tempered my expectations with them. But their win total, I will have the over regardless. But I think they can go as high as 11-6 this season. I think they lose to the Chargers week 1 before taking wins at Tennessee and at
They lose to the
Vikings.
Chargers week 1?
Yeah, I think
Dang,
the
they beat
Chargers lose
themselves
week
that
1.
bad, huh?
Wait, what did you say?
You said I have them losing to the Chargers week 1.
Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah, they beat themselves, obviously. They lose week 1 to themselves. I don't even know how that worked, but going to the bye, they are 2-2. I think they would then lose to Dallas out of the bye week before beating the Chiefs, beating the Bears, beating the Jets, beating the Lions, and beating the Packers. So I think they go on a pretty good win streak after their bye week. Beating the who was that? Beating the Patriots. I can see them beating the Broncos. I see them beating the Raiders, but then I see them losing to Buffalo. I'm sorry. I was beating Denver and then losing to the Chiefs. So I could see them flip it Detroit game. Right now, I'm going to keep it as a win and just say that they're going to be 12-5, but I don't think that's going to happen with their coaching staff. So could potentially sneak in like a 7 seed in the playoff picture, but I'm not sure honestly with how good every team is in the AFC Chargers this year.
I'm gonna get the hate train rolling again.
Let's go.
I want to firstly say that I have them as a 3 seed in my playoffs. I have them obviously winning the division then, and I have them going 13-4. And
what?
Here's why: they have a better defense than the Chiefs. I think is why they beat them out. And their offense, I think with their new offensive coordinator, Kellen Moore, I think that I genuinely think it's going to be a better passing offense because that's where they struggled last year. Somehow, when you have Justin Herbert, Keenan Allen, Mike Williams, Quentin Johnston, now they also had Joshua Palmer last year. They plenty of playmakers. And Austin Eckler, the best receiving back in the league, arguably, aside from maybe Christian McCaffrey. I don't think there's a way that you can't put that together unless you're the Browns or, some other team like that. But I think as the Chargers, I think they put it together. I do. And with that, I think they start out beating Miami, beating Tennessee, and beating the Vikings. I think they lose a divisional matchup to the Raiders, who at this point in the season are still going to be fighting like they have a chance. And then I think they beat Dallas and beat Kansas City. I think they lose to the Bears, lose to the Jets. I think those are going to be tough games. I think the whole stretch is going to be tough, but I think they kind of split it. They beat the Lions, beat the Packers, beat the Ravens, beat the Patriots, beat the Broncos, beat the Raiders, beat the Bills, beat Denver. I think they go on a crazy win streak there. It's definitely possible, all those games. I think Lions and Bills will be tough, like you said. But I think they lose their last game to the Chiefs. But I really think this is a team that with the new OC, I think Justin Herbert does better than the first year that we saw him be amazing. I think this whole offense just goes nuts, and I'm really excited to see him this year.
I think what you said is valid. I just question the coaching because how do you lose up 27-0 half the playoff game?
I think they forget about that one.
Yeah, I think you should. I think they should just brain wipe them like Men in Black style. Just forget it all ever fucking happened. Back to the Raiders, and I will probably be cursed off the internet for this take. The Raiders are, it's pretty obvious the Raiders are not going to be winning this division. They're going to be last in this division, in my opinion. Raiders are going 2-15, boys. They are beating those, then losing to the Bills, losing to the Steelers, beating the Chargers, and then the wheels just fucking fall off for them. I don't week 4. And here's why. Let me Let me give you the schedule rundown. People might be like, what the fuck? But you have Green Bay, who I think they could win. I could see switching that. But I think they lose to the Packers, lose to the Patriots. Well, I think they lose to the Bears, the Lions, the Giants, the Jets, the Dolphins, the Chiefs. Bye week happens. Then the Chargers again, the Chiefs again, the Colts, and the Broncos. And so, yes, I can admit that in that could win probably two, maybe three of them. But even with guys like Devontae Adams, their offense is going to take such a step down from last season because they have Jimmy Garoppolo, but their defense still is not great. So I think at most they could go 5-12.
Hey, that's what I have.
Yeah, I think that's the maximum they could go. I can see arguments for higher than 2-15, but if you're trying to tell me that they go more, I think that's just stupid, especially with that giant, really tough schedule, especially with teams like Miami and Kansas City because they're in the division. But like 2-15, I'm gonna get so much hate for that, but go for it. What are your thoughts on the Raiders?
I don't think you are, and I want to defend you here for a second. I think the Raiders are one of those teams that are not going to be great in general, and they've got a tough schedule. I think the schedules are kind of crazy this year. So yeah, no, I don't hate it. I have them going 5-12, so still not good. But I have them beating Denver week 1 like you, losing to Buffalo and Pittsburgh, and then I have them beating the Chargers and beating Green Bay. And so I think they come out with the divisional matchup there, and then I'm very low in Green Bay and the young squad over there. Not excited about them. And then I have them losing the same stretch you do, New England through Kansas City, but my difference is I think they beat the Colts and beat Denver at the end of the season. Because at this point for all three teams for me, it's just consolation prize, maybe some excitement for next season. So I think that the Raiders can beat them out on those. I think they have a solid overall roster that's better than both the Colts and Denver, so I think they can. But yeah, I'm very low on them as well.
Yeah, I forgot to mention, so we would both have the under. I think 7.5 is egregiously high. I think it's just they fall off a cliff at some point in the year. So we've covered Broncos, Chargers, and Raiders. So we have the Chiefs left, and I mean, this is just a basic one, so I'm going to kind of fly through it. In predictions, I do at least. I don't know about you yet, as far as
yours. Not me. So I'm excited to get the 8 for this one too. Go ahead.
Let's start before we get you started. Their win total is 11.5, so the same as Bengals were in our last podcast episode. 11.5. Are you on the over or under?
I am on the just barely made it over at 12-5.
Okay.
I do have them in my playoffs. Obviously, not winning the division though. Chargers 13-4. I sent you a text last night where I was playing Madden once again, and I was the Lions against the Chiefs. I was having fun using Amon-Ra. Pretty sure he had like 150 plus yards, but we don't discuss that now, even though it's going to be just like the game in real life.
There you go.
But I do have Detroit winning this game. I think Detroit comes out super hot. I think they're going to be a really good team this year, and I think they can surprise the Chiefs, especially once again Chris Jones out in the beginning of the season. I think it's a real possibility, and I want to say this too about the Chiefs. The Chiefs are one of those teams where you take Patrick Mahomes out of that team, and how many games do you think that they're actually winning? And I know he is that good that he makes that much of a difference, but in some of these games, you can't just say, oh, Patrick Mahomes, and not – there's no single player, including Patrick Mahomes, that is going to play absolutely perfect, win the game for his team every single game. So with that said, I do have them losing week 1 to the Lions, beating the Jags, beating the Bears, beating the Jets, beating the Vikings. I think they lose divisionally to the Broncos, who are, once again, still going to be in contention by that point. I know. But I think a hard-fought divisional battle in the beginning of the season where the Broncos still think they have a chance, I think it could happen. And I'm not saying it will, but I do have it happening. I have them losing to the Chargers after that, and then beating the Broncos the next time. Losing to Miami, losing to Philly. Well, obviously both tough games, solid teams. Once again, I mean, they're fantastic games that can go either way, but I have them losing. And then I have them winning out after that, beating the Raiders, the Packers, the Bills, the Patriots, the Raiders again, and then Cincinnati and the Chargers.
Yeah, I mean, Chiefs are just such a very good team. Mahomes is not going to be able to win all these games, but I think the coaching will because Andy Reid is just so good. But I have them
That's
above
fair.
you. I have them at 13-4. I
Okay.
think that, I think they do beat Detroit week 1, but I think they could win by like a field goal, maybe at most. Like I don't see them winning heavily. Ends week 1, Jags week 2. I think they beat the Bears week 3 before losing to the Jets. So at this point they're 3-1, and then they go and once they beat Denver, but then they lose to the Chargers before beating Denver again and beating the Dolphins on the way to their bye. In their bye week, they are 7-2, but then they come out of their bye week and lose to the Eagles before beating the Raiders and the Packers, the Bills, before winning out the rest of the season against the Patriots, Raiders, Bengals, and Chargers. I think they get the number 1 seed again in the AFC playoffs. I hate saying it because I don't want them to. I love if they went like 6-11 or some shit, but that's not going to happen. So give me the Chiefs there, and this division before we move on to the AFC South.
I don't think so. I think I want to rehash that the AFC is just so crazy. Like I have the Chiefs. I'm pretty sure it still is my 5 seed, but 5 seed at 12-5, and the Chargers are a 3 seed at 13-4 for me. But yeah, let's move on. Let's move on to the next one.
Yeah,
AFC South.
I think that's crazy. Quick side note: I am so happy that my team is in the NFC because that means that they actually have a chance to do something in the playoffs in the next 5 years. That makes me happy. We'll
That's
start
completely
off.
fair.
Yeah, exactly. But we'll start off the AFC South. CJ Stroud. Do you think he's going to get it done? Will he be a god tier quarterback? Even as an Ohio State fan myself, I don't really believe in him very much, but I could be wrong. I hope that I'm proven wrong. The win total for them is 5.5. Them just barely squeaking the over with 6 wins. What about you?
I have them just under with 5, and I got to say this. I think that I hate to say this because I thought CJ Stroud was going to start much better, but based on what I've seen in preseason so far, I'm not as excited as I was, and I honestly think he's going to follow in Kenny Pickett's footsteps. Not as good, but I think sort of where it's going to be rough to start the season next season, but I think he's going to win some games at the end, and excitement for next season. And so with that, if you're good, I'll start with the picks.
Yeah, go for it.
All right. I have them starting at losing to Baltimore and then beating Indianapolis because I think the Colts are going to absolutely suck. I have them losing to the Jags, losing to the Steelers, losing to the Falcons, losing to the Saints, losing to the Panthers. I have them beating the Buccaneers, who I also think are going to be very bad. And then I have them losing to the Bengals, losing to the Cardinals, losing to the Jaguars, losing to the Broncos, losing to the Jets, losing to the Titans. And then I think they close it out with 3 wins over the Browns, who, once again, don't think can get anything straight no matter who they have on their roster. The Titans, who I think is sort of the end of the season surprise, where I think CJ Stroud comes out and starts playing better. And then the Colts again. I think they win 4-5-12.
Yeah, I like it. I'm pretty similar to you to start. I have them losing to the Ravens before beating, but then they go on a big skid of losing to the Jaguars, losing to the Steelers, the Falcons, the Saints. Out of the bye week, they're going to lose to the Panthers and the Buccaneers and the Bengals, but then they're going to win 3 games in a row against the Jaguars and Broncos. So I think that's where they get the bulk of their wins, but then they're going to lose to the Jets, Titans, and Browns. End the season, they're going to win the next 2 games because they have nothing to lose, and they showed that last year, even when they had the number 1 overall pick in their hands, they didn't stop trying. So I think that's just what the team is going to do. They're going to beat the Titans, and they're going to beat Colts again week 18, finish it out 6-11. So even though their win total is 5.5, we opposite sides of it just barely by a game. So that's pretty interesting
that's
to
kind of
see.
wild, actually. No.
Yeah. It's like one of the first times but still on opposite sides. So that's pretty cool. But the next team we'll talk about is the Colts.
Yep, let's just get them out of the way.
Yeah, I'm pretty off on them this year. I think I have them a little low, but nonetheless, the Colts, I believe in them this year. Their win total overall, if I can find it real quick, is 6.5. I have I have them at 3-14. What is your record for the Colts this year?
2-15.
Okay, all right.
Yeah. And I'm going to start on this one too. Well, we are. I'm going to start on this one too, just because mine looks so funny. I have them starting out losing their first, 8 games to Jacksonville, Houston, Baltimore, the Rams, the Titans, the Jags again, and then Cleveland and the Saints. And then I think they come out with a win against young quarterback Bryce Young in Carolina. I think Carolina's also going to be one of those teams, kind of like the Bears, but to a lesser extent, where they win some games they shouldn't, and vice versa. And I think they beat the Patriots, who, once again, I am not high on this year. And then they come out after that, and they're, on a little 2-game win streak, and they're like, oh, hey, maybe we found something here. And then they get shut down by the Buccaneers of all teams, losing that game, losing to the Titans, the Bengals, Steelers, the Falcons, the Raiders, and the Texans to close out the season.
Damn.
Yeah, so they got 2 wins in the middle, and everything else is
just rough. I won't even go through all the games. They have 10 games played before their bye week. I have them going 1-9 before their bye week. I think they beat the Titans. I could see them beating Patriots right before or the Panthers right before, but I'm going to give the edge to those teams. And then coming out of the bye week, I think they lose to the Buccaneers, the Bengals, and the Steelers. So at this point, they're like 1-13 or something like that. They just suck. But I think they end the year a little stronger. I think they beat Atlanta. I think they beat the Raiders. But then the last game of the season, they lose to the Texans. So they go a very shit 3-14, last in the division, up for grabs for top 2 pick in the draft for the following year.
And the over-under is 6.5, which we both have the under on by far.
Yeah, we are heavy on the under. I think Anthony Richardson could make us look like fools, but I think
I am so excited that you just brought this up.
All right, go for it.
Anthony Richardson. I'm not sure on the timing of it because I didn't actually watch the game, but Anthony Richardson scored against the Eagles yesterday and did a fly Eagles fly end zone dance. And let me rephrase this, because the more I rephrase this, the worse it's going to get. He did that after handing the ball off and the Deion Jackson scoring the touchdown. So it wasn't even him. And once again, I don't know the point in the game, but he went 6 for 17 throwing the ball in the game and did the fly Eagles fly after somebody else scored, which I think is just on so many levels not a great way to start this season.
I did not know that, and I love that you brought that up. That's awesome. God, I have some faith in him that he can be NFL ready. Definitely.
I think his legs are. I don't think his arm is.
That's exactly what I was going to go into. Is that I think he can be similar to Justin Fields, where last year Justin Fields only threw for 2,200 yards, but he rushed for almost 1,200. And I feel like it's going to be similar to what Anthony Richardson's going to have to do. I think he is, again, like Justin Fields last year, where he was dog shit some games at throwing. He would go into halftime 4 for 11. Richardson doing that in a lot of games this year. But I think
he did that pretty much against backups already.
Yeah, exactly. Better against starters. So 3-14 is where I got him. I think that I could be swayed to have them slightly higher, but I think that they're going to lose Jonathan Taylor more than likely. Anthony Richardson's receiver like Michael Pittman, who's really good, but just has not had a quarterback that can really support him to do well. He's going to continue, at least for this year.
I want to say real quick that I think even with or without Jonathan Taylor, I have pretty much the same predictions, or very, very similar.
I think if they kept Jonathan Taylor, that they beat teams like either Tampa Bay or the Panthers. but I'm over because of Jonathan Taylor on their 6.5 wins. I would still be on the under, but go at most 5-12. But we
That's
are
fair.
very off in the Colts. Titans. I don't know why. I just apparently am such a Tennessee Titans hater. Apparently,
I think no, I don't think you're alone. I think I'm going to be on the hate train again because I don't think you're the only one
really?
that's low on them. And so I'll let you go first on this one so that I can get the hate after. But
all right, that sounds good. I feel like they have Derrick Henry and DeAndre Hopkins now, so I feel like I'm going to be the one. But interestingly enough, their win total is 7.5, and 51% are on the under 7.5. More split to the public than we realize. But we are also split on this. I am going to have the under for them. And so let me just kind of pop off for you real quick. They're not going to get a single win before their bye week. So I think they go 0-6 against Chargers, Browns, Bengals, Colts, and Ravens. They could beat the Colts, obviously. But I think could win against maybe the Browns. But again, I see them going 0-6 going to the bye. But then they kind of have their week. I think they come out and beat the Falcons, but then lose to the Steelers, but then beat Tampa Bay, but then lose to the Jags, Carolina, and the Colts, but then lose to Miami. So they just go back and forth a lot, I feel like, this season, before beating the Texans, losing to the Texans on the road again, and then they'll beat Jacksonville last game of the year because I think Jacksonville will be resting their starters because they will have secured by that point. So I see the Titans going 6-11. I know that they have D-Hop, but they don't have they have the worst offensive line grade out of every team in the NFL. They have Derrick Henry, who is getting older and behind one of the worst offensive lines, which normally does not matter. I think he'll still pop the ever-living shit off in a lot of these games. Getting up there in age, he is behind a terrible offensive line. They're going to run him into the ground. I do think I don't like predicting injuries, but if there is an injury to predict, I think that Henry could be hobbled at some point this year. So rough, even with DeAndre Hopkins and with their worst offensive line grade in the league, having the worst offensive line, especially running the ball 30 times a game. So 6-11 for the Titans. How are you feeling about them? Because I know that you are on the opposite side of that.
Yeah. So I've actually got them flipped at 11-6, but I gotta say I can see the 6-11. I can, and that's because this is a team where, like you said, not a great offensive line, the worst actually, as you said, but it's also just a mediocre defense. Ryan Tannehill, mediocre quarterback. He gets the job done, but he's not insane or anything. You're not like going crazy over him. Derrick Henry is obviously amazing. DeAndre Hopkins, if he's still in his prime-ish, he's going to be doing amazing. Treylon Burks' injury is tough. We haven't gotten an update on that in a while, but that's unfortunate.
Oh yeah, good point.
The important thing here is the coaching. I think that you put some of these same guys on a different team, and you're not doing as well as they have in past seasons. I think that it all comes down to the coaching and the schedule this year. They don't have too tough of a schedule. I think Mike Vrabel is a fantastic coach. One thing that I actually just want to put out there is one thing that he did this preseason is he let I don't know what coach under him it was. Maybe it was OC. I'm not going to try and guess because I don't remember. But he let him coach one of the preseason games as the head coach because he wanted to get the guy the experience. He's just he's truly a fantastic coach. And so with that, I think they're able to change the pace on teams. I think they're able to get some upsets. And I think they start the season beating the Saints. I think they lose to the Chargers and the Browns. I think they beat the Bengals with that change of pace. I think they beat the Colts. I think they beat the Ravens. And I think they beat the Falcons. Some of that just I think coaching wins them games. I really do. I think they lose to the Steelers. They beat the Buccaneers. They lose to the Jags. They beat the Panthers and Colts. They lose to Miami. They beat Houston. I think they beat Seattle, which I think is kind of a wild one. I think the Seahawks, just based on how I have them, are kind of riding high and not trying as much towards the end of the season. So I think they win that one. And I think they lose to the Texans and beat the Jags to finish out. I don't think that I have them making my playoffs. Let me see. Yeah, I have them just out. But I think they have a lot better season than people think because of coaching. Literally just because of coaching and Derrick Henry. But
interesting. I hate that you are picking. I think that's just brutal. But
Look,
apparently, 11-6 is too
Alvin
bold for
Kamara is
you.
going to be out. Alvin Kamara is going to be out. Derek Carr is on a new team. He hasn't gotten much work in the preseason. I think you might have a little bit of a Broncos situation on your hands. So
I don't know what the hell you're talking about. Carr has gotten plenty NFC video, but I will fucking die on the hill that the Saints are winning the division and at least getting 8 or 9 wins. So we'll talk about that in the next videos
yeah,
with NFC.
yes, we will.
But
I'm excited.
I'm excited too because I think that video is going to be literally 2 hours long because we're just going to be arguing about the Saints.
So many teams. I know.
Minute.
I got to say, we're in the AFC right now, and there's so much excitement in the AFC. But I think there's a lot of just untalked about excitement in the NFC that I'm actually really excited to talk about. But
I would absolutely agree because AFC is like there's so many powerhouse teams that that like 7 of the 9 powerhouse teams are in, but like NFC there's going to be some sneaky teams to get in. I think the only powerhouses in that division are like the Eagles and the 49ers realistically.
well said.
You never know what could happen, but we'll save that. We'll save that. So the only team we have left, this is actually going to be a shorter episode today, yes, but the only team that we have left is the Jaguars. I don't know how divided we are on this one, but I have them winning the division and going 10-7, which means I over as far as their win total. So let me try and check their win total real quick. Their win total is at a flat 10 on this ESPN fantasy football app. So I guess I'm even, but I want you to start. So go ahead. What do you think is going to happen?
All right. I have the over on this actually, so not too worried about the exact number there, but still don't like those in general. I have them going 12-5.
Oh wow.
Yeah. One of those teams that's definitely going to upset some teams, and it's going to lose a couple that you're like, ball games, you should not have lost that one. So I have them starting out beating the Colts, losing to Kansas City, beating the Texans. I have them losing to Atlanta, who I think people are a little low on this year, but are going to do better. I also have a theory there that I just want to state real quick. I think that, like I said, they've got some weapons that have not been utilized as they should. I think they're just going to put all the pieces together this year with Bijan. I think they're going to utilize Kyle Pitts like they should and Drake London like they should, and I think it's going to all come together. But that could be wishful thinking.
The NFC video is going to be 2-hour long video. I'm just
it really is.
now.
It really is. And then I have them beating the Bills, beating the Colts, beating the Saints, beating the Steelers. I think that they're one of those teams that can pull those games out against the Bills and the Steelers. I think they come out of the bye week a little, out of sorts of the bye week, losing to San Francisco. Then I have them beating Tennessee, beating the Texans, beating the Bengals, beating the Browns, losing to Baltimore, which is one of those games I think they could win, but they lose. And then I've been beating the Buccaneers, beating the Panthers, and finishing losing to the Titans. So,
okay, I do not hate that at all. Remind real quick before we wrap up, the Jaguars are going to beat the Colts week 1, but then lose to the Chiefs week 2. The Texans and the Falcons week 4, but then they're going to lose to the Bills before winning the last 3 games against the Colts, Saints, and Steelers. So going into the bye week, they're 6-2, but then coming out, I think they kind of cool down a bit. They beat the Titans, but then they lose to the Texans on the road. They lose to the Bengals. They will beat the Browns week 14. Will lose to Baltimore, like you said, but then they will beat the Buccaneers and the Panthers before they lose week 18. Again, I think that is because they will sit their starters because they've already sealed the division at this point. 10-7 for me. I guess I'm taking the over if it's 9.5, but if it's a flat 10, I wouldn't be betting on it to begin with, but I guess I'd be even with that over underline, and you would be over.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's our AFC.
I think there's some X factors here. I think that Calvin Ridley's an X factor that we don't know about, and even though I'm out on him on fantasy, I think he's enough of an X factor in game that he does give them that 12-5 record or help them towards that. And I think another X factor that people are not really expecting, some people are, I'm sure, is Tank Bigsby. He looked like an absolute beast in the preseason. I think he's that power back they needed behind Etienne as the receiving back. I think they go kind of crazy. And I don't know if you have anything else to say on the Jags, but
yeah,
Are you ready
I'll
for our playoff predictions for the AFC?
real quick. I'll step in real quick. Sure, my bad. I'll step in real quick and just say like, uh, Calvin Ridley. I think a lot of people are buying, which I am too. But I think he's getting super overhyped as far as fantasy football. But I was lucky enough to get him in the 5th round in our league, which is like no longer possible anymore. I think he's getting so overhyped. So I would not be drafting him now in like round 2, beginning of round 3 in like 12-team leagues is where I've been seeing him go. But if you're able to get him in like round 4 or 5, like I did, I love him for fantasy football. I think he's going to be a great X factor, like you said. I think an obvious X factor is going to be Trevor Lawrence taking a step. I think Tank Bigsby will come in huge the year. And I think the Jaguars defense will be sneaky good this year and help them get into the playoffs. But playoff picture, go with playoff picture to start.
All right. So for my playoff picture, I have the Dolphins as the 1 seed. I had them going 14-3. I had the Steelers as the 2 seed, taking that division, going 14-3 as well. And I had the Chargers at the 3 seed, going 13-4. And then closing out the divisions, I had the Jags going 12-5, obviously. And then my 3 wild cards are the Jets, the Chiefs, and the Bills. I had the Jets at 13-4. I had the Bills at 11-6, and the Chiefs at 12-5, I believe. Which every team that you heard in this playoffs, I think, is a very real possibility. And the only one that I think might surprise people is my own pick of the Steelers.
Yeah.
But it's crazy because there are teams still left out, like the Bengals, or for me the Titans I think could have been in there, or the Ravens, or even some people the Browns. And it really is just an absolutely insane season. But with that, I have the Dolphins obviously with the bye. I have the Steelers beating the Bills, and then I have the Chargers beating the Chiefs. Like I said, I think they're going to have an insane season. I have the Jets coming out and beating the Jaguars. I think by the end of the season, they'll have everything put together with their offense and defense. And I think that they get that contender status. And then I have the Dolphins beating out the Jets. I think their offense still just overpowers the Jets a little too much. And I have the Steelers beating the Chargers. And then I have the Steelers winning in the AFC Championship with their defense. Any thoughts on that?
I don't want to hurt your feelings, so I'm going to keep it to myself.
No, go ahead. Go ahead.
I know you're very high on the Steelers, 14-3, apparently going to make the Super Bowl. I just don't personally see that happening. I do see a fellow rival of the Steelers getting into the Super Bowl. So let me go through mine real quick. I will say that the Chiefs get 1st seed. Bengals will take the 2nd seed, or the Dolphins. I don't really know on the tiebreaker because I'm just going to say that the Bengals get 2nd seed, but I would not be surprised if the Dolphins did. Dolphins I'll just put it seed 3. Jacksonville will get the seed. The 5th seed is going to be the Ravens. So it would be Jacksonville against the Ravens. The 6th seed for me, I think, is going to be the Bills. The Bills, similar to like it was last year. And then the 7th seed will be Bengals against the Chargers. So I think round 1, I will take the Bengals over the Chargers. Round 1 of the Dolphins and Bills. That's a tough one. It's at the Dolphin Stadium. I could see that either way. But I'm actually going to have the Bills beat the Dolphins there and move on. And the next one is the Jaguars versus the Ravens. And I think I'm going to have the Jaguars one, but I think it's a very close
I agree with
game.
that, actually.
Yeah, I think the Ravens are really good it's just cursed in the postseason. I don't know what it is, but I do like the Jaguars to, beat better than most people are going to think that they're going to do. So the next week would be what? That would be the Chiefs, and then it will be the Bengals against the Jaguars, if I'm not mistaken. I see the Chiefs and Chiefs and Bills game is going to be rough. Give me the Bills. Bills need to just get their ass to the Super Bowl at some point, because if they don't, Stephon Diggs is going to have a fucking but I don't think they're going to get there this year. But I do see them beating the Chiefs. I think this is the year that the Chiefs, AFC streak snaps. I am probably the sole fucking person that thinks that, but that's fine.
Hey, I had them losing in the first round, so
yeah, I think that's where we're gonna get a shit ton of hate, really, on everything. But I think Chiefs do not get to the AFC Championship. Bengals versus the Jaguars. I think the Bengals barely take that one. I think that's gonna be such a. But I will say the Bengals move on, and it's gonna be Bengals and Bills in the AFC Championship. I think the Bengals will. Yeah, Bengals will be the home team. I'm going to take the Bengals to make the Super Bowl again. I think that the Bengals are just a slightly better team than the Bills are. I could, you could go back to last year's playoffs. Even in the Bills stadium, even in the snow that the Bills are familiar with, the Bengals dominated them. And I think that against them, moving to the Super Bowl. Now, I don't know who I would have as my NFC Super Bowl favorites. But I think Bengals win the Super Bowl this year. I think that they just pop off and finally get it done, which I know you would probably hate me for having that prediction. But
no. Here's what I hate from you is that
okay.
first of all, you don't have the Steelers in there at all, which
No,
I gotta say most people don't because they aren't expecting them to be good this year. Which I guess I can understand, but I hate it personally. And the rest of it, I gotta say, it's just like every single one of these teams that I have in the playoffs, and like I said, a couple outside, I can see any of those teams beating each other. And I think we're gonna have a super exciting, not only season but end of season, seeing who gets those wild card spots and see who's winning divisions, and obviously the playoffs. So, while everybody's still sitting here shaking their heads, listening to me having the Steelers taking the AFC. I'm just gonna put it out there once again. Possibly number one offense that if you just look at each player individually, they can all come together and be absolutely insane. Just watch and see. Huh?
Well, if it helps, they're like the 9th seed. I think the Jets could like barely miss. I think the Jets or the Chargers get the 7th seed. So I wouldn't be shocked if the Jets. But if it helps, they're the 9th seed, and maybe one day it'll expand, and the Steelers will make it as like the 9 seed. But I I don't know what to tell you. No one's gonna think that the Steelers are making the Super Bowl. But like you said,
you know what?
They have a stellar defense. Their offense is improving. I mean, I have them at 11-6 for a reason. So who knows?
You know what? I'm gonna do the nice thing here though, and give you a little boost and a preview into our next episode. I have the Saints going into the second round of the playoffs. So,
do you really?
I do.
That warms my heart. You know what? Just for that, I'm gonna put the Steelers at the 7th.
No.
And I'm gonna have them
it's too late for that. All you can do now is at the end of the season say, "Wow, I was wrong, and you are the best NFL predictor of all time." And I'm excited for it.
NFL.
Thank you. Yes. You know what?
No, I'm not saying that now because my God.
Oh no. I know you did. No, you don't know. You can act like you didn't, but I heard it though. So.
Say end of the season if the Steelers make the Super Bowl. Even if they don't win the Super Bowl, if they at least make it, I'll be like, you know what? You were on one.
Honestly, I think that if they even make the playoffs or win around in the playoffs, I get some props because most people, honestly, probably 99% of people don't even have them in the playoffs because the AFC is so stacked. But
yeah, I think if they win around in the playoffs, I think then that's like big PP energy for Steelers fans for sure.
Thank you.
Yeah, of course. But that is it for our AFC predictions. I know that a lot of you are going to get pissed at that. So leave us a comment and just tell us what you hate about it, what you love about it. But we will be the next couple of days with an NFC predictions video. And I think I don't know what divisions we're going to be. For sure, the next episode we got to do NFC South because we have some very differing opinions. Considering I'm a Saints fan and I am going to be biased, but I'm also going to be unbiased from an analyst standpoint. Like just a quick sneak preview. I'm not Falcons. I think they're going to be better than a lot of people are saying that they're going to be. I think they're going to, do well with Bijan Robinson. I don't think they're going to connect Drake London and Kyle Pitts all the way through the season, but I have them higher than a lot of people would have, than a lot of Saints fans would have, especially too. That's it for our episode. Thank you so much for listening. I know we have a lot of wild takes. Anything you want to defend before we leave it there?
No. I've done my defense. I'm ready for whatever slander comes my way. But I'm going to do a little preview with you too. I'm going to say that while the NFC South, we definitely going to have some differing opinions on. I think that every single one of these divisions we're going to have some differing opinions on. And once again, just we're in an NFL where there's so many exciting players, so many exciting teams that are rebuilding or anything like that. And I'm just excited to talk about it. So. Once again,
Absolutely,
thank you for listening. We really appreciate it. That's all I got.
I do agree real quick with that point of like, we agreed a lot on a lot of the AFC teams because, it's so different amount of teams. But NFC, like I said, there's going to be a lot of wild cards, a lot of random shit that can happen. And I feel like we're going to have a lot more arguments in the NFC than we did for the AFC. So I'm excited for that. But thank you for listening. We appreciate it. Have a good rest of the day and goodbye.
Peace.